Hello all and a very warm welcome. We're going to talk today about Rome's influence on Christianity once again, and some quite revealing things that are happening between the first church fathers. And I have been through a little bit of this before, and then the consolidation of what became Christianity under the Nicene Creed, which was Rome taking over essentially Christianity formally and with purpose. And under Constantine, Christianity becoming the official religion of the Roman Empire. It's often intimated that it's difficult to see a kind of trajectory between Titus's family, the first Christians, the first pieces of archaeological evidence we find in the catacombs of Priscilla and Domitilla and so on in Rome. And yes, they are the earliest archaeological pieces of evidence here that firmly establish Christianity, and they're only in Rome. And some of the church fathers here are actually quite easygoing with Rome here, and they do appear to be talking fairly in friendly terms with the Roman state and stuff like this. And we're going to go through that today, and just so that I can, again, putting my conspiracy hat on for a moment here, I think adequately showing that the potential here, the possibility of Christianity in a very Judaized form with a logos spirit and various aspects of Jesus' story now coming around based upon Titus's ministry, and I do believe this 100% now. But that the period here between what would we say here, between the 90s and Domitian, and he's throwing out this notion he didn't like his brother. He got rid of some of these Judaized, Jewish thinkers and friends of Titus, and for a little while you see no interest in Christianity. Then it begins to come back into Rome there in about the 150s and 160s. But all through this time you really don't see any massive persecutions. You actually find churches in Rome and in the empire that are left more or less to just do what they want to do. Lots and lots of money being thrown around, communities existing unmolested. So let's go. The scope here, this dossier gathers every piece of surviving or reported correspondence that ties Irenaeus of Lyon, now specifically him, 130 to 202, to Rome, both the Roman Church, its bishops and presbyters, and by proximity and posture, the Roman imperial order for each item. I list 1, what the document is, 2, the relevant passages, 3, date and context, and 4, why it can be read as pro-Roman, accommodating the Roman ecclesiastical centre and compatible with imperial order. Where the original text is lost, I note that we rely on Eusebius' ecclesiastical history for summaries or quotations. And the bottom line here is there is no direct evidence that Irenaeus was a state agent, but his letters reveal a consistent deference to Rome's ecclesiastical primacy, a diplomatic role in keeping unity with Rome, and a theological posture that normalizes Roman rule in salvation history. Okay, this profile is strongly pro-Roman in tone, even if not politically servile. Okay, they were not at odds, the Christian Church and Rome. A correspondence linking Irenaeus to the Roman Church, first of all. The Leon Martyr's letter to Eleutherius, carried by Irenaeus, 177 CE. What it is, a letter from the confessors in Lyon and Vienna during the persecution under Marcus Aurelius. This may well be quite exaggerated, this persecution. It might actually be members of a kind of Gnostic sect as well, that we don't really know. Addressed to Asia and Phrygia, and also to Eleutherius, Bishop of Rome, and they commend Irenaeus by name as their emissary. The status here, text preserved, excerpted by Eusebius in Ecclesiastical History 5:1-5. Why it matters: it places Irenaeus inside the highest Roman ecclesiastical network as a trusted courier during a crisis. It presumes Rome's coordinating authority and shows Irenaeus working with it, not against it. Pro-Roman read: collegial loyalty to the Roman See during persecution. De-escalatory, a cooperative posture towards imperial order. No denunciation of Rome despite immediate local sufferings. And this is obviously not a persecution, it is a prosecution of certain Christians. If it were a persecution, he would not be allowed in, and if he were, he would be arrested and probably killed. Irenaeus this is number 2. Irenaeus' letter to Victor of Rome, urging moderation in the Easter controversy or dispute in the 90s now CE. What it is: a letter from Irenaeus to Victor, Bishop of Rome, pleading with him not to excommunicate the Asian churches over the date of Pascha. Irenaeus agrees with Sunday observance, yet protects community cohesion and communion with dissenting provinces. The status quoted summarizes in Eusebius Ecclesiastical History 5:24-11-17 key details. Irenaeus lists earlier Roman bishops: Anticius, Pius, Hyginus, Telephorus, Eustace, to show that Rome itself historically tolerated diversity while maintaining unity. He cites Polycarp's amicable visit to Anticius in Rome. Why it matters: demonstrates deference and access to the Roman bishop. Okay, Irenaeus can admonish him precisely because he's a recognized partner in Rome's circles. The goal is Catholic unity, centered with, not against Rome's community here. Rome is an established church in Rome, in the empire, and is not being sought for destruction or anything like this. Pro-Roman read here positions Rome as the arbiter of communion and uses Rome's own precedent to stabilize the wider church. Ecclesiastical statesmanship, that mirrors imperial ideals of order and concord. Number 3 here, letters against Roman schisms, to Blastus on schism, and to Florinus on the monarchy of God, on the Ogdode. Why they matter: a cluster of letters combining schisms and Valentinianizing error in Rome. Status here, titles and summaries in Eusebius Ecclesiastical History 5:20. The texts themselves are lost apart from fragments. Why they matter: Irenaeus, bishop in Gaul, intervenes in Roman internal disputes to defend the sound ordinance of the Roman Church. His audience is Roman presbyters. His authority is welcomed enough for his letters to circulate. Pro-Roman read upholds the discipline and doctrinal integrity of the Roman Church as norm setting, treats Rome's internal peace as mission critical for the whole Catholic body, again aligning the periphery with the center. So Rome, again, thousands of miles from Judea. What has Judea got to do with Rome, right? But if we talk about the possibility here that really it comes from Rome and that there is a reason for that, then it begins to make sense. The Principalis page, Rome as the benchmark of apostolic tradition, and against heresies 332. What it is: Irenaeus names the Church of Rome, founded and organized by Peter, obviously, and Paul, as the very great and very ancient, and asserts that because of its preeminent authority, it is necessary that every church agree with or converge upon it. Status survives in Latin with Greek fragments, standard editions and translations. Why it matters. This is the earliest explicit four gospel canon advocate, also insisting on Roman primacy as the touchstone of orthodoxy. Everything comes from Rome. Roman Reed, of course, canon formation, a Roman primacy, a universalist Catholic architecture, ideally compatible with imperial unity, right? Textual signals, and please read The Myth of Persecution by Candida Moss. It explains so many things. Textual signals of a pro-Roman posture, the Roman Empire as God ordained. Daniel's exegesis against heresies 5 here, what it is. In reading Daniel's four kingdoms, so interesting this part, right? Irenaeus identifies the current fourth empire with Rome and treats its tenure as providential, strong like iron, permitted by God until superseded by the kingdom of God. Okay, why it matters. He does not demonize Rome, he normalizes it within salvation history. This is markedly less anti-imperial than Revelation's Babylon imagery. If you want to go there and say that Revelation is talking about Rome, I think it was tuned to maybe reference Rome, but I don't think it was originally Rome. Imagery and helps reconcile Christians to imperial reality. Civic obedience and peaceable citizenship against heresies 5 again. Why it matters. In passages paralleling Romans 13, Irenaeus depicts Christians as those who obey rulers and magistrates, living peacefully among all. Why it matters. This commends law-abiding participation in the civic order, not separatism or sedition. Remember, Suetonius here, and around the time, the 50s and 60s and stuff, talking about another Christus who was not doing this. And people think that Christus or Christus was Jesus. It can't be, can it? Read this. Why it matters, the commands law-abiding participation. See here, analysis. Why this looks pro-Roman without proving state agency. And the central periphery, center-periphery alignment. A bishop from Gaul treats Rome as the normative center and invests political capital in preserving communion with it. Diplomatic de-escalation in the in the Easter controversy affair, he restrains Rome's punitive impulse by appealing to Rome's own tradition. The quintessential insider move, canon ad primacy equals institutional universality, fixing a fourfold gospel and elevating Roman succession, deliver a portable orthodoxy that mirrors imperial universalism. One rule, many provinces, providential empire here. Okay, treating Rome as God-permitted history fosters a non-apocalyptic, non-revolutionary Christian stance, ripe for later Constantinian partnerships. So remember, before the 70s and even up to 135, Israelis hated, Judea hated, Galileans hated the Romans. Now it's all being flipped entirely on its head. Important caveat, none of these equals state employment, right? So he's not necessarily working for the state of Rome. We possess no imperial rescripts, no civil titles, no pay, no direct correspondence with emperors or governors, and no appeals from Irenaeus to the imperial court. The dossier shows here ecclesiastical alignment with Roman's church and a theology compatible with the empire, not a Roman intelligence asset. But put your conspiracy hats on. I don't believe that that's true necessarily. I'm just forwarding it as an idea. Chronology. Select milestones 130 to 150. Irenaeus is born in Asia Minor, later a disciple of Polycarp, if you want to go there. 177, persecution at Lyon. The confessor's letter commended Irenaeus to Eleutherius in Rome. Irenaeus travels to Rome as an envoy. 180. Composition against heresies. Books 1 to 3 and 4 and 4, 5 slightly later. Potia Principalis passage 332. 190 again. Well, doesn't really. I don't have to read that all out. What we do not have, obviously, no letters from emperors, no appointments or stipends, of course, nothing really obviously connecting him to the empire itself, but that would not be extant anyway, let's be honest, if he's doing this kind of subtly. I think it is very likely that he might have talked to some people in the empire and explained who he was, what he was doing, and don't go hard on the Christians, dude. Guys, we're okay. Representative excerpts translated on Rome's primacy. The church founded and organized at Rome by Peter and Paul, remember, if you believe this, is very great and very ancient, and because of its preeminent authority, it is necessary that every church agree with this church. Okay, remember Justin Martyr, no notion of who Polycarp is. And people like this, so it's bitty. There's not much there in the record, but so again, I'll just finish off here. One paragraph takeaway here: Irenaeus' actions, carrying letters to Rome, writing to Roman bishops and presbyters, curbing Roman disciplinary overreach, and his theology, Rome as providential stage, Roman primacy as the norm of apostolic tradition, amount to a sustained pro-Roman orientation. This made him the perfect pro-Constantinian consolidator, not an imperial agent, but a bishop whose ecclesiastical universalism and Roman alignment prepared Christianity for a world in which empire and church could coexist and soon collaborate, of course, as they did. I suppose the takeaway is there is, what would it be, a 200-year or so period between Christianity really becoming big in Rome, say the 130s, 150s, and then through the 200s and into just the beginning of the third. We can see here how Christianity is obviously becoming part of the furniture within Rome. The prosecution over persecution kind of narrative here, I think, is a very reasonable one. Yes, Christians were, and certain sects of Christianity, like the Montanists, were causing a lot of trouble in Rome at certain points, and they were stamped out. But there's no applied hateful. Maybe Pliny the Younger isn't that nice to the Christians he interrogates, but remember Trajan says, well, leave them be, it's okay, let them do what they're doing, as long as they're okay with paying homage to the emperor, let them do their thing. Anyway, again, just to be clear here, it begins to look like, and there are quite a few pro-Roman sentiments among many of the church fathers. They're happy to live under the Roman yoke. I'll leave that there. I thought that might be useful. It might have been a bit boring for some. Congratulations if you made it to the end, but thank you very much. We'll be back hopefully tomorrow. We'll see. All right, bye-bye.